All right. Good morning, AP Music Theory World. Dr. E here again. And this morning we're going to be discussing part writing from Roman numerals. So if you've got a piece of manuscript paper handy and a pencil, that would be great. I'll give a moment for you to copy the progression that we're going to work on, and maybe two of them, depending on our time. Before we do that, let's get right to brain burps can happen. Oh my gosh. So you've got to check your work. And I unfortunately had a brain burp last Friday. And I'm sure if you were watching out there, you probably noticed an E flat in the key of F major. Oh my goodness. And I was just writing along fast and I don't know what I was thinking about. I certainly wasn't thinking about the key of F major. So be really careful. I probably wouldn't have been ruined by it because it's the E, which I wrote as an E flat, is in the bass line. So I wouldn't have experienced what we call the triangle of doom, no part writing in, no part writing out if you spell the chord wrong. But so that's the reason you have to be careful. And then up above the staff there, I didn't finish because we were running out of time, but I put them in red, the last three motions between the soprano melody and the bass line. And they were contrary from the first beat to the second beat of that second measure, and to the second to the third, contrary again. And finally, it ended with similar motion between the soprano and the bass. So at any rate, if you catch me doing something like that again today, please email me immediately. That's what my students would do. They would catch me, and I'm happy when that happens, because we all have the potential for making mistakes, and I certainly do. So I will try and be sure that I get it all right today. But anyway, there's the correction. It should have been C, E, G, B flat, not C, E flat, G, B flat. All right, let's go on. And I left you with this assignment to write melodies, because we want to think linearly when we're part writing. At least that's the way that I write. And I think it has the strongest tendency to make really musical lines, and that's what we're after. So this was the first one in B minor. And the first thing that we have to do when it's in Roman numerals, and that's what we're going to work with today, is we need to find out what the chords are based on the Roman numerals. And I think sometimes you've got to be really careful, especially when it's in minor. That's why I'm glad I left you some in minor. So I always write down the little line down from the name of the key B there on the left. I put A sharp, because A sharp is the 7th scale degree raised to leading tone. And so you have to remember that that happens. So the first chord there is a B, D, F sharp chord. That's the one that's given to us, the one chord. And then that 5, 4, 3, you're going to notice that it is a major chord. Well, that's where that leading tone comes into play. The A sharp, you have to put a sharp on that A in the actual music itself. So that's why I parenthesize that sharp. And then you can go across and look at the rest of the chords. There's a B, D, F sharp chord again, a 1 in first inversion. There's a 2 diminished 6, C sharp, E, G. And then that 1, 6, 4, 5, and you expect a 1, but this time it's a deceptive cadence and it went to 6, so 5 to 6. There's that major 5, 7 again. That's a dominant 7th chord. So you've got to put a sharp on that A, F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E. After you've got those chords down, then you write the bass notes. And that's why I circled those bass notes according to the inversions. A 4-3 is a second inversion, where the 5th is the lowest. 6, of course, is first inversion. 6-4 is a second inversion triad. 7 is in root position. And so there's the bass line. And finally, we want to write a melody to go along with that. And here was the melody. And I wrote contrary motion, then similar motion between beats 3 and 4, contrary motion again, oblique motion because the bass line stays stationary, and then similar motion to the end, but you can see that it's an F sharp up to an A sharp, that's a third, and a G up to a B, that's a third. So thirds in parallel motion are great. And here's what this melody with this bass line sounds like. Nice. Okay, the second one was in A minor. And so this is a figured bass exercise. Oftentimes I do delineating the chords and the Roman numerals at the same time on my steps. That's step 1 and step 2. If you remember, I'm going to review those with you in just a moment before we start our part writing today. And so there, over there where the key is listed, A colon, we have G sharp. I put that line down because G sharp is leading tone in the key of A. And there are the chords. I think probably they're all pretty explanatory, except of course the 5, and you have to worry about, it's so often sometimes if you're not thinking in Roman numeral and figured bass that you forget, you know, that this is a G sharp in the key of A because it's the 7th scale degree raised to leading tone. And you see that 4-2, it's a third inversion. The chordal 7th is the lowest note, D, and there's a little plus next to the 4 in figured bass. That means the 4th above that D is raised 1/2 step. And so that would be D, E, F, G. And here again, they have in the figured bass told us to raise the 7th scale degree to leading tone. Here's the melody I wrote. So it was, I stayed on E flat, went in contrary motion down to D, went to oblique motion because the bass is remaining stationary, and I went to B flat, down a third. A skip of a third is fine. I would try and steer away from anything more than a third. Sometimes maybe you might find it, but most of the time you won't. The melody will be mostly conjunct, 75% of it probably at least, and then you know, maybe a skip of a third here and there. And then from across the bar line, I went similar motion, but that was D, F, A, and up to B. That's a 6th, and then C up to A is a 6th. 6th and parallel motion are great. And then I went oblique again and kept the soprano the same. I kept the common tone A in the second beat, and then I went to the leading tone G sharp on that last. This melody sounds like this. And I think it'll be really smooth to be able to put the alto and tenor in, and that's where we're going to go today with Roman numeral part writing. Okay, third one was in F minor, and so here are the chords. And in this particular case, I think the E natural on the second beat in the bass is already there, and you can see that is the leading tone in the key of F minor. And we move across. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned with those 7ths, you see the arrows that I drew? The chordal 7th, which is B flat on that second chord, the 5-6-5, has to resolve down by step in the next chord or hold until it can resolve down by step. So this one can resolve down in the next chord to A flat. And then over on the penultimate chord, the next to the last chord, that B flat again has to resolve down in the next chord to A flat, and it can do that. Here's the melody I wrote for this one. Contrary motion to B flat on the second note of the melody, and then contrary motion on the third note to A flat. And then I moved in similar motion, but the thing about this similar motion is it's not at the same intervallic distance. So it's fine, you know, no problems. It'll work really well. And then I went contrary motion again across the bar line to F. And when I got to that and I saw this 1, 6, 4, 5, 7 to 1, that's what the figured bass is telling me. I knew immediately that I had one of two choices. I could go scale degrees 3, 2, 1, excuse me, or I could go scale degrees 1, 7, 1, do, ti, do, or me, re, do in the key of F minor. And I chose where I was to go, since I'd already kind of been around A and G, I decided I would keep going on down and do do, ti, do. So there's oblique motion with the so-so in the bass to leading tone and back to 1. Here's what this one sounds like. This one will work really well with the writing the alto and tenor voices too. Okay, so hopefully you wrote some melodies that mimicked the ones that I've written. There are more melodies you could write. These three are not the only ones, but these three work well. And so hopefully I'm giving you an idea about what you want to try and write. Okay, so here's what we want to do. I want to review the part writing steps first. Step 1, write the letter names for the chords represented by the figured bass or Roman numerals. That's the first step. Step 2, write the Roman numerals indicated by the chords in the figured bass, or write the bass line indicated by the Roman numerals and inversions in the Roman numeral progression. So sometimes you can do step 1 and step 2 together. And with Roman numerals, I don't do it that way. I'll show you in a few moments. Step 3, of course, is writing that melody. Write a good melody to create good counterpoint with the bass line. And think about 50 to 60% contrary and oblique motion. I didn't count that up on the melodies we just looked at, but I'm telling you that it was 50 to 60% at least in every one of those 3 melodies. And you can look back and check that. But finally, we're going to complete the alto and tenor voices, and we want to use mostly stepwise motion with those 2 voices. And that will usually go smoothly if you've written a good melody. Strategies. Use a chord matrix. I'm going to do that with you today. And I think using that chord matrix really, really will work well. And you'll see why. We've got to spell the chords correctly. That's number 1. And we've got to spell those chords correctly. Otherwise, we don't get voice leading in or voice leading out of the chord. We want to use a linear approach once we've identified the chords. That means write a characteristic melody using an abundance of stepwise motion and work to achieve linear smoothness and independence of voices. Okay, so those strategies, I gave them to you last time and I wanted to review those with you. And now let's do our guided practice for today. Get your manuscript paper out and, copy this down, and I'll help you. I'll leave it up there for just a second while you copy. But we're in G minor, and first chord is a 1 chord. That one's given. So it's G bottom line, B flat top of the staff, bass clef, G second line in treble clef, and D 4th line. And then I'll just call out the chords for you. Of course, we're in common time. So 4 chords in the first measure, 3 in the second. So the second chord is 7 diminished, 6, 5. 3rd beat is 1, 6, a 1 minor, 6. 4th beat is 2 half diminished, 6, 5. And then we have a 1, 6, 4, 5, 7 to 1 in the second measure. Oh, that's great. A 1, 6, 4 to a 5, 7 to 1. All right, with that said, I'm going to switch to the document camera. over here. And I'll share that screen with you. And hopefully you can see this. Let's see, maybe the light will help us. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you got that copied down and everything's good. And we're ready to write. Now realize that we need to try and do this in 10 minutes, okay? That's the suggested time. And of course, our timing on the AP exam is 25 minutes for both the figured bass exercise and the Roman numeral exercise. So we're going to have to work at getting our timing right. There's the exercise again, if you didn't get it all copied down a minute ago. Okay, so here are the steps I take. First strategy is write a chord matrix. So down here on the bottom, I'm going to write, we're in the key of G minor. So this is G, B flat, and D. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'm writing it a little small to give myself room. And then we're just going to write the letters in order, the 7 letters, A, B, C, D, F, G, but they're start on G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then we're going to put the key signature in, and you can see up there, it's 2 flats, B flat and E flat, okay? I'll bring the whole thing down a little bit later in a minute when we need this, but we need this to find the chords. Okay, so this is going to be a B flat here. This is going to be an E flat, B flat, E flat. There's B flat, E flat. Okay, and then our Roman numerals would be 1, 2 diminished in minor, 3, and you know we're not going to worry about that one too much because it doesn't happen often. I have a student in my class right now who loves the 3 chord, but I tell him you can't use that all the time, hardly at all, in fact. Okay, and then it's 4 minor, and then 5 major. Okay, so that means we're going to have, you know, the key signature in G minor has an F sharp. I'll write it up there. Okay, so we have to remember about that F sharp, and that comes into play in the 5 chord, and then 6 is a major chord in minor keys. And then the F sharp is going to come into play here too, because we're going to probably find that we have diminished sevenths a lot more than major sevenths in minor keys. Okay. And then most likely it looks like we've got a 2 chord with this that is a 7th chord. And so this is going to be E flat G up there to make it into a 7th chord. And then the 5 chord, we'll always add that 7th on there. So that's D, F sharp, A, and C. Okay, now the cool thing about writing that chord matrix like that is now you can just look at the Roman numerals given in the exercise. And I'm going to try that without that light. Maybe let me see. Yeah, maybe that's a little better. We can see it. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Roman numerals up here and then find them down here. So the 2nd chord is a 7 diminished 6, 5. Here's 7 diminished. Oh, we need a 7th up there too, and it would be in the key signature an E flat. Okay, so this is going to be, we didn't put the 1 in there, but this is a 1 chord. So the 1 chord is G, B flat, and D. And by the way, we're going to circle the bass notes because that's that'll write them for us. Okay, so now this chord is a 7 diminished, and 6, 5 indicates it is a 7th chord. So this is going to be F sharp, A, C, and E flat, okay? And 6/5 means this is the third. The bass note is the third of the chord, which is A in this case. Next is a 1 chord again, so that's G, B flat, and D. And now it's in first inversion, so B flat is the lowest note. And next is a 2 half diminished 6/5, so we need all 4 of those notes. This would be an A, C, E flat, and G. Okay, A to C minor third, C to E flat minor third, that's a diminished triad. E flat to G is a major third, or A up to G is a minor seventh. So this is a 2 half diminished. You can see the sign right there, half diminished 6/5. It's in first inversion. That's what 6/5 means. It's first inversion, 7th chord. Then we've got a 1/6/4. So that would be the notes G, B flat, and D, except 6/4 means it's a second inversion. So D would be the lowest note. And then we've got a 5/7 right here. D, F sharp, A, C, D, F sharp, A, and C. And this is root position. So D would be the bass note. And finally, we end on a 1 chord, and that would be G, B flat, D, and it's in root position. Now, one other thing I like to put on this little, what I call roadmap, is those sevenths. The chordal sevenths, these up here, have to resolve down by step in the next chord or hold until they can resolve. So can E flat resolve to D? Yes. So we would draw an arrow right there. Okay. And then G. G needs to resolve down in the next chord to F sharp. Uh-oh, there's no F sharp in the next chord. So what has to happen is that G is going to have to stay like that. I made a little squiggly line there. It's pretty cool. And then it holds until it can resolve down to F sharp there in the 5/7 chord. And then C over here is going to resolve down to B flat. Okay, like that. So those arrows can really help you, I think. All right, so next we're going to bring this down. We're not going to need the chord matrix anymore down there. And so now we're going to put the bass notes in. So G is already written for us. The next bass note would be A, so we step up to A. The next note would be B flat, so we step up to B flat. The next note would be C, so this is a very conjunct bass line to that point anyway. And then we're still going up, so we step up to D. And then D holds. This is so do because it's a 1/6/4/5 to 1. And then I'm just going to go up to G up here, and that would be a half note like so. Okay, so there's our bass line. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, do. Okay, next, step 3. If you remember on my list of steps, we're going to write a good melody to go with this. Now, there are choices, but I'm going to write one that I wrote before, just so I can show you a good melody. Okay, so on this first one, the way I look at these is I go, well, which ones would work? F sharp. F sharp would be a third up or a sixth down. Not so great. A we can't use because we've already used. We have to use all 4 of the notes because this is an inverted chord. Any inverted chord, triad or 7th chord, you have to use all of the notes of the triad or all of the notes of the 7th chord. So A was already used, so we can't use that. C. Okay, well, I think that would go in contrary motion, so we could probably use C, E flat. Yeah, you know, we could use E flat. And think about this. I'm going to use that one because I want to show you something. Okay, so I'm going to write E flat up there like that. And here's the thing about it. If you look between the bass and the soprano, this is G up to D, G, A, B, C, D, that's a fifth, and it is a perfect fifth. So that's a perfect fifth right there. And then this next one is A up to E flat, okay? That is a diminished fifth. So these are unequal fifths. Perfect to diminished is fine. So that's similar motion, and that'll work fine, okay? Next, I'm going to see if I can go in, well, I have to go in contrary motion because that E flat, I've already written the next note too. It has to resolve down by step and go to D, okay? Then here we go again. We've already used C. You know, I should check those because those are ones we've already used. That'll help us in a minute. And so we've used E flat and we've used D. Okay. And then we can't use C. A is going to be a skip. G, ooh, you know, our only best choice in this case, and that's going to seem a little bit noodly or not the most exciting if we go back to E flat, but I think that would be our best choice in this case rather than making a larger skip. Okay. And then let's try for contrary motion again on this next one. So we could go to uh, looks like we could go right to D. B flat would be a skip, G. Okay, so let's take D. And then see if we can keep going in contrary motion. We can't use D. And so we've got to go to maybe C. C would be good. And so let's choose C. And finally, that's going to go on down and end up on B flat, okay? Like so. So this was contrary motion. This is similar motion, but let's check that out. B up to D, B flat up to D is a third, C up to E. That's thirds. So that works great, you know, and that'll be fine. Then we've got contrary motion, that's perfect. We've got oblique motion, great. And then we've got contrary motion to the end. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 60% of contrary and oblique motion. That works really, really good. Okay. Then our last step, of course, is to write in the alto and tenor voices. So here we go. We need a C and an F sharp in that next chord. So C and F sharp. Well, if I'm going to go stepwise, don't forget F sharp is the leading tone. So you have to put a sharp on that note. And then we've used F sharp and we need C. So the tenor can just step up to C right there. And then going on, we need a G and then we need to double something. So I think the G can step up. The F sharp wants to go there. It's leading tone. So let it resolve like it wants to. And so now we've got B flat and D and G. So we need to, if we could double G, ooh, that would be a pretty big skip. Next would be D. We could go to D, but you know what? I think better than that, if we could go to D, but I think I'm going to go and double the B flat in this case, the third. It's okay to double the third, and especially when you get into an inversion like this, that'll work fine. Okay. Next, we've used C and E flat, so we need an A and a G. Oh, well, that's easy. We'll keep G common from the chord before, and then we'll just move the tenor down to A. I didn't quite get those lined up exactly. Okay. And then, oh, we see we need to keep G because it can't resolve. It's the chordal seventh. So we need to keep it right there, like so. And the tenor line, you know, if we use G right there, then we've already used two Ds. We've got to have a B flat. So the tenor is going to have to move back to there to B flat. And then look, this is oblique. So that's okay with all of the other voices. The soprano is going contrary to the bass and tenor, but these are similar motion. So C, D, E flat, F, G, A. That's a sixth. Oh, so those are sixths in parallel motion. Sixths are great in parallel motion. Perfect. Okay. We had some sixths over here too. I didn't draw your attention to that. A, C, E, F sharp. There's sixths in parallel motion between the bass and the alto. See that? Okay. So those are good. And then we're coming up to the 5/7. So we need an F sharp. Let's see, we use C and we use D. And so we need an F sharp and an A. Well, we're just going to move those stepwise. This is going to go to F sharp. And you know where it wants to go. It's going to want to go to G on that last one chord, in that one chord. And then we need A. So the tenor, I'm sorry, is going to have to step down to A like that. And then we need a G. We've got two G's already. We've got B flat. We need a, oh boy, we need a D. Do you think it would be sensible to go A, B, C, D at the end? No, I don't think so at all. What composers would typically do is they would let this move to G and triple the root. And really, this happens quite often in music of the common practice, where at a cadence like this cadential 6, 4, 5, 7 to 1, they would let it triple the root. Okay, so that's our exercise for this one, and I want to go back and show you. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here. And okay, so there's what that's one I wrote out before this one that I just wrote. So it has a couple of different things on there, but the arrows and everything are there. The chord matrix is there. And here's what this sounds like with all four parts. So this particular exercise, I think, would get a perfect score. I didn't score it, but I'm pretty sure that everything is right there. No parallels that wouldn't be acceptable and that sort of thing. Sixths and thirds are going along fine. Okay, so I'm going to try this. I don't know. It's 9:33 right now. I'm going to see if we can do another one and do it in 10 minutes. So here it is. Start copying that down, and I will switch back over to the document camera. Okay, and let's try another one. All right. I meant to make this bigger last time. That will help us. My goodness. Okay, I'm not probably going to talk as much this time because I'm going to see if we can do this in 10 minutes. And that'll be about our time will be up. Okay, so we're in the key of E minor. I'm going to get a little sharper pencil. Okay, we're in the key of E minor. And that means that the D sharp is the leading tone, 1/2 step below tonic always, okay? Here's the chord matrix. So we're in the key of E minor. So we're going to write E, G, B. Okay, so I've got my chord matrix going, and then I have to put the F sharps in. And then here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on the 2, this would be an E. And on the 5, we've got to worry about that D sharp right there. And we've got to worry about it on the 7th also. I'll put them in parentheses. And then on the 5 chord, A. And on the 7, it would be C. Okay, so there we go. And now we're going to put these up here. So this is an EGB. And it's in root position. 5, 5, 4, 3. That would be B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. And that's F sharp would be, because it's a second inversion. And then the 1/6 EGB again. And G would be the bass note. And then 7 diminished 7, D sharp, F sharp, A, C. It's in root position. Then the 1 again, root position. And then the 2 half diminished. And that would be F sharp, A, C, and E. Okay, diminished triad minor 7th. So that's a half diminished, and it would be, the A would be, okay. And then this one, oh, this is a suspension down here, a 4/3 suspension. So that would be a 5 chord. Well, the 5 has a B, and then, but this would have a 4th, a non-chord tone, B, C, D, E, and then F sharp. And then that E would resolve to D sharp, okay, like so. All right, and this would be the B. Okay, next, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. Next, we would write the bass notes in. So this would be F sharp and G, down to D sharp, to E, down to A. Yeah, I think that's the best. I'll go to the lower A rather than the one up there. You could go that one up there. It's all right. But I like this, and it leads to the B. Okay. And then and that should be a half, that should be a half note. I'll redo that. Okay. Like so. All right. And then next we would write the melody. All right. And so check, 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 check. Okay. I like to put those check marks like that, or diagonals, so that I know that I've already used that note. And then with doubling, you know, you might want to use it twice. Okay. So next, I'm going to go, I think I can go in similar motion. I could, since I've already used F sharp, I can't use it. So I'm going to go the other direction, and I'm going to go to an A right there. And now, can I go in contrary motion? And that similar motion was fine. E up to G, F sharp up to Z, those are thirds. So then I'm going to go back down to G right here. And that's contrary motion. That works good. And then, so now we've used 2 G's in that one, and we've used that A right there. And then this one, the 7 diminished 7. I'm gonna go stepwise still, and I'm gonna take the, rather than go back to A, I'm gonna go to F sharp right here. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in contrary motion, so I can go to E. And then I'm see, now I'm on that E. So here's the thing. I didn't draw the arrows. That E has to go like that. This A has to resolve down to G. This C has to resolve down to B, like that with those chordal sevenths. Okay. So the A, see, that's why I went back to G. So it resolved correctly. And the C we haven't used yet. Okay. But this E, now, see, we have to use that E, and I can just keep it common here and keep going in the soprano. And so now it's going to suspend into this note chord as a non-chord tone, a suspension, and then it's going to resolve to D sharp. Now I know that seems like that went do, me, fa, me, re, do, ti. That's actually a very common movement in music of the common practice. Okay, and then I have about 2 or 3 minutes to put the rest of the notes in. So I've used, let me see what I've used, G, and then F sharp, and then E. I've used twice there, and then I've used E, and then I've used E and D sharp, like so. All right, so in the second chord, I need a B and a D sharp. All right, a B and a D sharp. Well, the tenor can keep common, and then this can move down to D sharp, the leading tone. Don't forget to put the sharp on it because, you know, it's the raised seventh scale degree. Next, I've used 2 Gs. I need an E and a B. Well, that D sharp's going to want to go back to E, and the tenor is going to stay common on B. Ooh, that tenor part, yes. It's going to have a life of its own, though. And then on the next one, we've used D sharp and F sharp. We need an A and a C. Okay, so the tenor is going to move down to A here, and this is going to have to move a little bit. So it's going to go down a third to C right there. Okay, and then we've used both these. We need a G and a B. So that C is the chordal seventh. It has to go to B in the next chord right there. And that means that the other note we need is a G. So the tenor just is going to step down to G. And then in the next chord, we've used F sharp and A. We need, I'm sorry, A and E, and we need an F sharp and a C. Okay. So the tenor, I think, is just going to keep moving down to F sharp, and this can go to C in the alto, like that. And then we've used A and E, so we need F sharp and C. And so the tenor is just going to stay common on F sharp. And guess what? The alto moves down to the B, okay? Like that. All right. So, wow, we made it just in time. And let's go back to the PowerPoint. And like this, and we'll go, and here it is. I wrote this out, and I didn't finish writing out on my one that I just did, the contrary simple, contrary oblique, and oblique, but you can see it now. And yes, it's 60% of the contrary and oblique motion here as well. Here's what this one sounds like. Nice. Very common practice. Okay. So hopefully I've helped you maybe with the timing and also giving you those steps. And we're going to keep practicing these. We'll practice them again, and we'll do these steps with figured bass as well. Here's one I want to leave you with for you to practice. Okay. So copy this one down. And once again, this one is in a minor key. So watch out for those. There's my timer that went off for our 45 minutes. So be careful about the leading tone. Use a chord matrix and work this one for next time, and we'll review it at the beginning of my next lesson. I've really enjoyed being with you this morning. I hope that you're beginning to get these steps down, and don't forget, you've got to work speed. You've got to get fast. Okay. So thanks for watching. Be sure to complete the practice question, and I look forward to seeing you again on Thursday. Mrs. Foote will be with you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.